Come on, Red.
Have a seat.
Hold on while I pick up the whole table.
I don't think this is the time.
No.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming together today so we can sort this out. Bring the meeting together at 1:04. Roll call.
Camilla here.
Nancy Lackey.
Cy.
Tom, here. Joey, here.
Reason for open discussions on the Welcome Center. So, the first part of it is that, as we know that the state has decided not to fund Trinidad this year, the current expenses from the city of Trinidad is $50,000 buy-in is what the city gives us, and it's currently costing us about $68,000 a year to run it. So there's that little gap. How are we gonna handle that gap for next year? And, do we have any foresight on what the city wants, what Greg wants, what city council wants with the Welcome Center? Do they want to keep it subsistence? Are they up to moving it? Kathy Ritter, in a letter to us back in, I think it was the end of May, Greg? Something like that. Sent us a letter saying that basically they would re-entertain us, making us one of the tourist centers that was funded by the state if we would consider moving the Welcome Center to a place like La Porta, because it had an off and on ramp. Currently, last year, our views with the guests were 22,000 that they had saw. This year, I believe those numbers are already up from Marty. But they had 11 welcome centers, and we were the least visited, and they totally believed it was because of our an off-ramp existence, and because of that, we were the ones that weren't funded. If our numbers were up when we moved our numbers, and we moved the welcome center, funding may be provided by the state.
Where do you look comparison of this year and last year? Where are the numbers? Do you have those?
Yes, so I just created and brought July, just as an example. July in 2017 was 3,605. July in 2018 was 4,066. July for 2019 was 5,045. So we've increased by about 1,000 visitors in our peak season exponentially.
Yeah, and we commented on how I've seen the Welcome Center crazy busy on a few weekends, but I think having more events and events that are widely advertised gets people more to that Welcome Center too, because I was amazed at the amount of young people that I saw going through the Welcome Center. But what is the city's thoughts?
Well, my thought is, like the increase that you have there showing, does Kathy Ritter have any kind of expectations of where she would like to see those numbers? We were way down from everybody else. I think the person that was closest to us, you may know, Murray, you went
was Julesburg, and they were way down as well. But I mean, Julesburg is like it's the northwestern.
How much?
How much?
Did they have like 50,000 and we had 22, or do you know?
Oh no, they were closer to probably 23, 24, real close.
Okay, real close to us, okay. Yeah, we are the doorway, and Kathy, we are the doorway to Colorado.
From the south.
From the south. And we are the largest, port of entry, and I like to say that a lot, and I said that to Kathy after that determination was made, but if you're standing in DIA and you look at all the people coming and going, that's the largest port of entry into the state of Colorado on a daily basis. If you look at I-25 and you look at the corridor, we are the second largest port of entry into the state of Colorado is the northbound traffic coming out of New Mexico into Colorado, and that's a good fight with that.
Well, and we have to consider other factors that were involved in those numbers as well from last year and the year before. The year before, the Welcome Center was moved to the Era Mitchell Museum so that they could do the remodel. So that affected numbers. I mean, greatly.
Well, that's a good point.
Last
Excellent point.
year, a lot of our travelers didn't come through this port because we had so many fires in the area. So they were entering the state through other areas.
Mm-hmm.
So those were.
Was all this stated to?
I didn't personally have a conversation.
The reason there was no
number reason?
logical reason for not funding us, other than the fact that once you walk away from the funding, getting back into it is next to impossible. And when the legislature cut their revenue or cut their budget by over $500,000, you can't fund more stuff when you've taken a loss.
So the original reason we lost the funding was not because of numbers.
No, it's because they don't have the money. But
was
that
your-
doesn't mean it's
No.
gonna show up next week either.
The original reason, and that we go back now 3 years ago, was because there was an issue between Gabe, I believe, and the state, and Gabe and Jonathan had decided that we did not need funding that year and to look forward to, which is not unusual, to look forward to a welcome center that was city driven. And so, as Marty knows, because she's in the welcome center, there's only 10 that are financed, not financed, that are given money through the state. There's an additional, 45 welcome centers in the state of Colorado that are not funded by the state. So that's a note to make. However, we are the first welcome center with the southern traffic coming up. Through the process of this, you can look at that currently northbound only, not southbound, northbound only. It's 2.9 million people come through that corridor, northbound only. And so I don't know what that statistic is. Is that less than 1% visiting our welcome center? Is that what can we do as a city to get more people off the highway and let them stop at that welcome center? Because there's 2.9 million visitors. Moving them might be one. Is there any tourism advertising that we feel like we can do that would be advantageous to pull the 2.9 million cars off the highway? So I think, so I think this is an economic development also question, not just a welcome center funding.
Now, the question I have too is, how many, welcome centers are there in the state of Colorado?
There's a ton, there's like 60 maybe,
And now,
55.
all the incoming ones that are contiguous to other states, how many of those can you find out how many of those are funded and how many are not funded?
There are 10 total.
She went to the seminar, so yeah.
There are 10 total welcome centers that are funded by the state.
But are those the ones that are incoming into, like us?
Yes, so those are your gateways. So there's.
Are they all funded?
Yes, they are all
We're the
funded.
only one that's
We're the
not.
only one that's not.
Okay, I think we need to make that point.
But there are other convention and visitor bureaus, visitor centers, welcome centers, throughout the state that operate.
Yeah, and I can understand
Apart
that.
from the
I can understand that, being that they're
tourism office.
more inside the state of Colorado, but I'm talking about
Those-
coming into it.
There are 10, and in the long bill, it said that the funding was for the 10 welcome centers in the state. So that's how I addressed it, is if we are considered one of the 10 that are funded by the state's long bill, why did we not receive any money? That was just a question I had.
So is there things in the long bill that determine that we wouldn't get funded?
Yes, as Greg mentioned, there was a cut in the state tourism budget.
Did you ever have a copy of that?
No, I didn't.
Does the city have a copy of that?
Well, if it's a bill, it's public record, you can get it online.
But just so that we're all in the same thought process, so we lost funding 3 years ago due to what went on with Gabe and Jonathan. And then when we tried to reattain it, they said, well, you'll have to do this, and we've been trying to do that. And then they sat down to the table, the way I understand it, and stop me if I'm wrong, because I know you know this part of the story, Greg, is all of a sudden when it came to funding time, they realized they were only getting something like $2,000 or $3,000 more of funding this year than they got last year. Plus they had all these, all these price increase on work staff and everything else. So they said, how are we gonna fund all of them? We're gonna cut the least one that shows on the books that are bringing in visitors, and Trinidad was the least on the books at that period of time. So that's when that determination was made. She didn't have funding, right? Is that correct?
This year?
Yeah.
No, it's because they cut their budget
Well,
by
that's-
$500,000.
Oh, I thought she got only a little bit more, but it was still costing so much more to run.
She was
no.
expecting them to cut it another $300 or $400 before the
Oh, okay.
session was over.
So it was a substantial amount of cut. I didn't know that.
So Greg, do you think there's a possibility that we could propose something in a contingency format in a letter, ask for, some form of funding if we meet certain criteria, since our numbers seem to be changing, and we don't have the fire season, and we don't have construction, and we aren't experiencing losses like we were for the last couple of years? Do you think that's a possibility?
My concern with it is that if they're not gonna provide additional funding, that means it has to come away from the other centers. So if they make a 10 or 20% cut to each other center in order to fund this one, the hue and outcry would be huge.
And I understand that, but when you think about the other gateway centers, the north, which is Fort Collins, and to the west is Grand Junction, I can't think of, just Grand Junction. They're heavily populated areas, and they have, I don't know how their cities fund, in addition to state, how the cities fund. I'm just wondering if there isn't, a contingency plan comes to mind for me. If the city were to supplement and the state were to give a lesser percentage.
You know, I think something that we could possibly do, because they're having that governor's conference in September. I think that might be the time to approach them and see maybe as a group, because I'm planning on going to that as well, so on Monday. So maybe that would be the time to.
Well, and I don't know if it's, well, does the governor actually go to this?
Yes.
Yes.
He does?
Yeah.
Then that we could maybe ask for a meeting. I'm just thinking.
I
What we
think
can do is we can get hold of Debbie and see if there's a way, because he's usually pretty tight schedule. Get a hold of Debbie and see if maybe we
I
can
think
find some time to sit with the governor.
I think if we can show a cause why we should receive something rather than nothing, and if we can perform and get our numbers up, it leaves us, at least with something from them, and it puts a lesser burden than on the city.
I think between now and then, I think we should have a plan and maybe send to him as to the way we're gonna move forward. If we get assistance from them, then what they can do for us. If they can't, then we just basically have to move forward, is the way it is. But we do have to have a plan, and that's why I think we're here today, is to create this plan to move forward. Because if they're gonna cut the funding again, we're definitely gonna be on the chopping. We're basically gonna stay where we are, because of the talk is it's hard for us to get back onto it, as all these other centers are already online with them.
Here's the thing that they keep talking about, if we were to move the Welcome Center over to the LaPorte area, with no guarantee that we'll get funding.
Right.
That's concerning to me. I've got some information on the discussion that we had when we talked with some of the other boards and commissions about coming together. I do have some additional information I'll share with you guys in a bit. So, I think that if we're gonna move, that's gonna be a big lift for the city of Trinidad as well.
Yeah.
If y'all want to talk about it now, I can.
That's fine.
That'll probably come with increased costs, so
Well-
instead of 68,000, it would probably be 230 or 130,000.
Yeah, and
More.
even as a board, and we didn't have any workout break sessions from this, but we had talked lightly that we had really thought that with the cost of employment, with as many things as we're asking Marty to do and her trying to run the Welcome Center, with having only one extra employee there, is that there might be additional labor hours that we needed, and with minimum wage going up to $12 an hour, is that we would need to have a package probably somewhere around $100,000 just to be able to run the Welcome Center next year. Thinking it's going to cost probably closer, if it's going to 68 this year, probably closer to 75, and that's not without even any other employee there. If we're asking the tourism board to take on more stuff that we want to take on, we feel like that's our responsibility, is to do as much as we can for tourism for the city. We would need additional funding than what we have now. I mean, we're trying. There's there's more breakout session to this that I didn't even realize until yesterday, that we need to look for additional funding for the tourism board in the sense of that the Holiday Inn is within the city limits, but on the right side there, the RV park and the Derrick Motel, Tower 64 is all county zone. They are not collecting a penny for city tax or for tourism tax, which blew my mind when I found that out the other day. That's an additional revenue probably to this board and to the city of quite a few dollars.
Neither is,
Well,
the
you
budget
have-
summit.
Yeah, and the budget summit, so I mean, I don't know if we
They're
need to
in the county.
relocate, because how can they be in the county, way down here, and the Holiday Inn's over here in the city? We're
It's-
looking to do the most that we can for tourism, those places should be taking the tourism tax, and.
You'd have to
turn it
annex them into the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah, we need to annex it to the city, for the city to really think about that, cause that would solve some of an additional $30,000 between those two hotels.
Even some of the revenue that we're losing
And the
from
RV
the
park.
bed and breakfast.
And that is a whole different, I got a big letter going to you guys on that because I've been doing research, but when I just found that out, that we need to annex that for extra funding, that's an absolute for our city. What are we doing out on Santa Fe Trail that the city's not doing? They're plowing it, they're taking care of it, the schools are driving to it, parents are, why it's not annexed, so that's additional revenues for us. So,
What about Coffin? Is Coffin in the city limits?
I don't know. I was just so totally blown away when I found that out.
Coughlin Motel? Yes, it is.
Is it, where does the city limit stop on Santa Fe?
Well, it's
Trail?
checkerboard. Some is and some isn't.
Oh, okay. That's, yeah.
It's the same way when you go out East Main. Some is county, some is city. It isn't a consistent.
Is, but I think them being annexed is by the property owner itself. They're the ones who would wish to be annexed into.
Well, the city
Well,
can make a proposal.
Greg, what do you think about that?
We probably could do that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you the information that I said I had. You know, go ahead.
I have a question. Do they have, city services?
I asked, they told me they told me
Okay,
they did.
So, it's my understanding that when you annex, when you kind of conduct an annexation from, the municipal side to the property owner, that you then must provide services. So if they already have city services, then that stands to reason. Nothing changes for them, their taxes don't change, nothing changes, it's just that, they're lodging.
Mhm.
But only that if
No, it would change the property tax.
Oh, because it's in the city, okay.
Because they would now be paying city property tax along with.
But, I mean, they don't pay any they don't collect any city tax or any tourism tax.
Well,
I
they're in the
know,
county.
the gentleman
I know,
from the budget
but I was
summit
shocked.
had asked me at one point, he wanted to annex his property.
So did Tequila's.
They're the people that own the Quality Inn and the Best Western.
I think Tequila's was interested in the same thing.
They're-
And
Well,
Well,
Wendy's.
they are in the city,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
up
whole-
to
because
the
No, they he
southern
just
border of
owns it.
Tequila's.
They own the rest of it, so.
That's weird, huh? Caught that up.
Yeah,
I talked to Mr.
they sell.
They must sell to another one of their relatives because he wants to sell. That's why I was over there. I got all the paperwork.
You know, when I met with the boards and commissions about maybe coming together under one building, and one of the things that came out of it is, the possibility of the move of the Welcome Center. So, at the end of the discussion, I told them that I would check with the Trinidad Development Group. So I sat down and I actually talked to Jay, I also talked to Carl. And, the thing is, they're willing, that old Santa Fe building, they're willing to, build that out and possibly even add on to it. For the eventuality that we would, that the Welcome Center would move there. The big problem is then of course, I don't know what the rent will be. And in order to reduce our rent, the only way we could do that is if we became, I guess, owners of the building, the city owned the building, or probably part owner to reduce our cost. Because I was even asked Candola help fund that, the only way they'll fund that is if it's what city owned property or building. So that would be the big issue there, but, I don't know, we don't know what that cost would be to the tourism board for monthly rent, yearly rent, I don't know what that would be.
And is there a possibility of donating that building to tourism?
So maybe we need to just clarify that, get a letter going, wondering
Well,
what the
but
different
the
ways
bigger
are.
issue about that is what's a completion date?
Right.
We're still waiting for other things to get going there. I personally like the Welcome Center where it is, but that's just me.
Wanna just move that building over there?
Exactly.
I actually talked to him about that once.
Did you?
How many years has it been since we haven't got no money from the?
Three.
Three? 3 years. So I mean, we're already 3 years into it, I mean, how much revenue is it really, I mean, I don't see
Well-
spending that much money, you know, to go to La Porta, cause it's a waste of money if it's not, we've been without it for 3 years. How much money is it really generating the city of Trinidad to have a new welcome center over there? I mean,
Well, the
we have a
benefits-
welcome center.
It benefits the whole state,
Yeah.
and that's why I can't understand why the state
Right.
is not funding it, because it does benefit the whole state. Benefits the city, but it also benefits the state.
Yeah.
Well, I think with the acquisition of Fisher's Peak and outdoor recreation and what the city of Trinidad stands for, I mean, I just got done telling the mayor with the Starburst Award, I love statistics on how to show off Trinidad the best, and one of the statistics I learned there is that out of all the states in the universe, all the states anywhere, is that, Colorado is the only state that does 100% of their local lottery tax dollars to outdoor recreation. That's a huge thing, that it's not divided up and some is spent for roads and some is spent for this, it's all for outdoor recreation. And if we're doing that, and if from the governor's point of view, if we're now having that new doorway with the Fisher's Peak acquisition in our face, outdoor recreation, I mean, there's, you know.
But I think we gotta do our welcome center right. If we put money in our welcome center, you know, and go Trinidad, promote Trinidad, and promote everything around us, and have great numbers, then I think the state would be like, they're doing such a great job, let's role model, let's use them as a role model. Right now, I don't think we're using that. I don't think that, I've been in that welcome center, it's just so much information all over the state of Colorado. I think we need to really use that welcome
just
center for Trinidad.
Right, I
Let's
agree.
promote Trinidad and use that as much as possible and get as many numbers to Trinidad. You can team up with a Dunkin' Donuts, you can team up with different places in there, so you will attract tourists. When they go in there to get a donut or a coffee, they're gonna go into our center.
Right.
It's gonna attract more numbers.
Right.
That's why I think Safeway has Starbucks and all these places have these different things inside their businesses, is to create more people come into their place, and we don't have that.
Well, that brings to mind a question that I have that I guess I'm wondering, do you think it's feasible or economically reasonable to suggest that you own the building, we become the tenants and rent from you for a minimal amount of the year, and that we're able then to redo the interior so that we're focusing just on Trinidad? Here's another new thing. The Chronicle News is, because they're not just a newspaper anymore, they're multimedia. They are going to put in their window a very large TV screen that is user-friendly even from the outside of their windows. A tourist can touch an icon or a location or something, and it will continue to show what that tourist wants to see. He said, this is something that tourism ought to look at in the tourist center, in the welcome center. So I think, this is just my personal opinion, but I think one of the reasons that the tourist budget was cut is because people are Googling. They're Googling where they're going. And that is why I think New Mexico's doing the same thing. So I think we have to take a different approach and look at how do we promote Trinidad within our own welcome center, rather than the state. Because if we're not getting any money from the state,
Well, I think the thing that needs to be known too is that the reason why we lost that money 2 years ago was other increases.
Yes,
yeah,
right, and I think that's not
We wanna talk about that
forgotten.
today, but
Yeah.
that's there.
It's still in their mind.
It's there, so.
Right.
That's why I was wondering if maybe when we have that tourism conference in Denver, if maybe we could set up, I don't wanna step on Kathy Ritter's toes, But it might be a good idea if we can get the governor and her together to sit with us and see if we can come in and explain to them that if we could keep funding the current Welcome Center, I think that would be the ideal place because of cost. Because if we move over to the La Puerta, the cost is going to, escalate substantially, and that won't work, probably won't work for us.
Well, and the Welcome Center right now is known. It may not be used, it may not be, the easiest to access, but the location is there. Whereas a new location, even if we had it out south of town somewhere, it's still, we still have to realize our competition is the phone.
Are we properly signed when people come into town? That's the thing, are we properly signed when they get off the
Yeah, we
highway?
gotta look for those
Northbound
signs.
we are, southbound we are not.
That's when we get into town to direct them to the Welcome.
Yeah,
Center.
there's at least 5 signs which are coming out here that says welcome.
And southbound we are for lots of reasons. First of all, Colorado signage is so much more expensive than New Mexico signage. And second of all, they have all the laws on I-25 right-hand read north side of I-25 because of the mountain laws. So there's not very many right-hand reads. Once you get into town here in Trinidad, there are some great billboards, left-hand read, those few that we have there. But besides that, southbound out of Pueblo, right-hand reads are very skinny.
Do we have enough signage coming into Trinidad? Maybe we could put a little bit more signage.
I think we need a
to
big
that
sign,
exit,
yeah, I think
that
we,
exit coming into Trinidad.
That's what I was talking about.
Yes, yeah.
I think we need a big sign coming into Trinidad that just says, think we need to go old school and just do 34 food and restaurants or something.
Right there where it turns off to come over the bridge, I think, right at that
If there was,
intersection, I think there, if the sign points to Welcome, Trinidad Welcome. to-
there is one, yeah.
Is there one there?
Yeah, there is there.
Well, one thing that we have done is that we really looked very, very hard at past advertising dollars, and we've eliminated a lot of outdated, worn out billboards, inconsequential types of magazines that, Jonathan had done in the past. We have skimmed down greatly in our advertising so that we can be prepared
Look at other
for
places.
more, social media platforms for people to find us on. So connecting that to the Welcome Center is positive, but it still goes to the operating costs. We have to have a good, strong plan B, I think.
Yeah, it's the operating cost. No matter where we look at it, it's gonna cost around $100,000 to do a decent Welcome Center, with labor being $60,000 of that or more, this coming year. And office supplies and things that we wanna do. If we kept that, we need to give it a facelift somehow, the city, even if we don't really see the $100,000 ourselves. It's like an old worn out Best Western when you go in there. Sorry for anybody that might be offended. But, you don't get the feeling that you're a hip, cool town when you walk into it. It seems like we're a worn out, tired town when you go in it. And so, I don't know if that is building making that round desk, just painting it, I don't know what it is. And of course, like Joey says, you get kind of lost because when you first walk in, there's southeast Colorado, northeast Colorado, you're not really seeing Trinidad stuff. And I know by laws, and we've been trying to keep up with that because of the state of Colorado, we don't have that. But
So we're not under their jurisdiction anymore. We don't have to do
Yeah,
that.
we're,
Yes, we are. We have a
we're a
memorandum.
Colorado Welcome Center.
we are Colorado Welcome Center unfriended.
We have a memorandum of agreement with the Colorado Welcome Center until 2020.
Okay. So through
July.
next year, July or next year?
Are we obligated to a certain number of square footage because of that designation?
Yes.
What's that square footage?
I'm not sure, but I'll find out. And I don't know if it's square footage as it is prominence of materials.
Oh.
Because really what I'd like to see is 80% Trinidad promoted and 20% Colorado. I mean, the first thing you walk in should be Trinidad, Colorado, everything in Trinidad, Colorado. Not that I'm not against supporting Colorado, but that's really what should be supported is Trinidad. All the restaurants, all the boutiques, all the shops, all the hotels in Trinidad, Monument Lake, everything that Trinidad owns, the golf course. That's really what should be up front, to all these guests, not, if we own it, we pay the bill, we should be able to control it once we take it over 100% until you know, the state changes it.
Yeah, and so just, I mean, I don't even, if we keep the building, you know, a better designer in the sense where when you walk in, maybe something above that says, you know, welcome to Trinidad, Colorado, home of whatever we want to say, or something, just to put, ask at the front counter for downtown Trinidad stuff or stuff if we're gonna, I mean, I don't know, we're open to whatever, but we're now, you know, struggling to make sure that we just don't oversee this, but we really make it hip and cool and something that guests remember when they come through our town. And we're so proud of you for having the numbers go up.
And helpful, it just needs to be
Yeah.
helpful.
I think from the conversation that we're having here is, you feel, Mr. Sun, that we're not gonna get no more funding from them because they're gonna land.
No, that I don't know, you know, like they pushed through a lot of programs this year that cost a lot of money.
Yeah,
And so that may have been a 1-year change in order to get that done.
So I think if we set ourselves up that we possibly will get funding, if not, then is the city willing to give us the money that we received from you last from the marijuana tax to proceed with the running of the welcome center?
That event coordinator funding was a trial 2-year balloon kind of. It wasn't forever.
And my thing is you fund a lot of nonprofits in running
The city council cut that by half this year.
yeah.
So now it's only 5% of the sales tax revenue.
So for us, having to carry the burden of that takes a lot of money from us having to fund a lot of events or advertising of the events that we fund also. Unless our money is generated more by more hotel stays, more people added into the pocket of money that's generated, like
Going after
the
the
dare.
The Airbnb.
I mean, there's from what I see here, there's just so many things that are so undecided, but there is monies out there to go after. There's, you know, the marijuana money is coming in a lot. You know, there's the revenue is up from the last quarter from what I've seen from previous quarters. You know, so it's just.
I think the big thing too is, you know, somebody brought about the Airbnb, that thing keeps popping up, you know, and I think that you figure out a way how do we capitalize on those businesses, and I think that's an issue that needs to be.
So
discussed.
what does the ordinance say on that? Does the ordinance say that?
Collecting right now. Any hotel, motel, lodging, campground, anything you can imagine, including almost sleeping in your cars in that phraseology.
And that's what I take from reading the ordinance, is that anybody who is under that we should be collecting the revenues from them.
Matter of fact, I gave that paper to Les last week, and there was an article in, I forget what magazine what journal comes out in Colorado Springs, and they're talking about the Airbnbs up there and what they're going through.
Ours is already.
Maybe the best thing to do is get that article from Les and read it, and that might give you some ideas as to what they're doing.
One day I was really upset about it, and I really spent a whole day writing a letter to you and Greg, but I hadn't sent it all because I did a whole lot of research. And I will revisit that since it was a couple weeks ago. I didn't want to send it unfinished. And I'll send it to you in the steps I think we need to take to make it happen, because there are 2 distinctive problems. That one of them is the non-collection, and actually 3, non-collection, and then making sure they all have their business licenses in the way they're recognized within the city for collecting tax, city and tourism and state tax. And then, so it's regulation and that, but in our ordinance already sets right now, no matter if you're regulated or not, if you are renting a room, if you're renting a bed, if you're renting a campsite, if you're sleeping on the ground and you paid $7 to do that, tourism tax must be added to that. So that's already law, that's in our, so we should be collecting. Now how to regulate that, you know, the city and Audra already has rules and regulations for operating any business. business? Do they have business licenses? I could sit and write down every home in the city limits in a matter of one day, but there are enough city businesses that once I found out about Santa Fe Trail yesterday, we are losing 2 hotels worth of city and tourism tax by not collecting in these places. 2 hotels worth. So if you consider that, you know, every
What is
year.
that, about 100 rooms?
Yeah, if you consider that every year is, I don't know what that is, about $80,000, that's an additional $160,000 on the table that is already, they are supposed to be collecting for. And that's the money that we need without hurting the city anymore, because I know you guys have a lot of things on your plate right now. I know everybody talks about, and us included, about the marijuana tax, but I know you're taking on huge projects with Space to Create, with the Fisher's Peak acquisition, with just all of our infrastructure. So I'm trying to make it a win-win, and let's find a way that this board can be supported with more money, and it's right there. We just need to get somebody regulated to work on it, and our board's willing to help, but
Well,
not there.
just like motels get on this tax collection, so bed and breakfasts should be on this also.
It says it right in the ordinance.
How many Airbnbs and vacation rental by owners do we have? Do
It's
you think?
changing dramatically.
Yeah,
My
Right,
last
that's
I heard was 22.
Yeah, that's probably right in
22
there.
Airbnbs?
Yeah,
When this thing came into,
Or how about bed and breakfast?
same thing, sort of in there.
You know, my recommendation is, you know, we're at the ground level of this thing, other than what you're saying, it's already in,
Mhm.
some ordinance, but not regulated, isn't regulated enough. My recommendation would be to contact somebody like Colorado Springs, get their ordinance, so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel and then make it fit to what we want to do. I think that would be the way to start.
But how do
well, when
you
the
start the
Holiday
engine?
Inn, when the
All what
Holiday
you do is you get that ordinance that they have and compare what we have and compare what they have, see what's working for them and make it work for us. That's how you start.
Can I ask a question? When the Quality Inn and the Holiday Inn, when they started collecting tax, did they come to the city for any information that they had to be on the rolls of collecting the tax?
No, that's a very good point, because I was running the old Quality Inn, the Holiday Inn at the period of time when that went through. And we got notices that just said, you must, and we just started collecting it and got notices if we didn't.
If the law's already in effect, why can't we send letters out to these bed and breakfasts and say, start paying up?
Yeah.
Probably can.
You can if it's in the ordinance.
Yeah.
Try it easily first
You just
before you
send a
start
letter
going.
out and
Just
say,
a copy
hey,
of the ordinance.
we want property, we wanna collect, it's been on the books, there is a law there,
When-
we're starting to collect.
As an example, since not everybody might be doing it, the county just started collecting the tax. Nobody called me the first of the year, it went through. That was my duty as a business owner, to know I'm supposed to start collecting county tax. And I started collecting county tax and made a few phone calls, and we started mailing our check for county tax. It's just when something becomes law in your business in the area, you just follow the law.
Now, are these Airbnbs, do they have to register in the city?
I don't know
They
why
should.
they
They
should.
should, but is that part of our ordinance,
Is
or
that-
can, and how many of
Well,
those
let's
can
ask-
they?
you can
Well,
amend the ordinance.
Let's ask Audra if she has any information, since she's always.
Audra has no voice.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is your speaker on?
Just, oh,
So the new planning code is supposed to address the Airbnbs. We kind of have an issue with respect to zoning because it's really a business in residential areas. So, our new code is supposed to address that first. And then, I have to get it clearly to see, but I agree they need to. We had a debate internally, do we need a license and regulate or do we not? But we have to get them correct. We have to have the zoning to accommodate it first.
My
So when-
question, Audra, would be, how do you see, if going through planning and zoning, how do we just Google Airbnbs in Trinidad and see what shows up? And see if they
Yeah.
apply?
Yeah, they
See
all
if they-
show up.
See
So
if
if
they
you-
apply?
I mean, all you gotta do is contact
So if you're-
VRBO and they'll send you the
But-
information what's registered in the
That's
zip code.
not Airbnb stuff though.
Yeah,
So if
VRBO.
They're
Yes,
just a different
yes,
provider.
it's a different provider. Yeah, we use them all the time. Like, it's easy
Yeah.
to do.
So if you're a bed and breakfast, you sign up as a business. So you have, so with that business, you should also be given a letter that you will collect the sales tax for the tourism. So
And
that should,
see, and I don't know what Cheryl or finance director collects all the tax. I don't know who's paying who's not.
yeah, so when you do file for a license to open up a business, you should also be given this new ordinance that you will collect the tourism tax. Shouldn't that be the way it should go?
Most of those preceded the tourism tax.
So they would just be
opened.
grandfathered in as.
And the only other one that's open is probably up here in the corner. They're aware of it.
So just as
Do they pay?
just as an idea, and that show sold out tonight too, is so the LA Grill has 3 of them upstairs. Fisher's Peak Loft with a picture of Fisher's Peak from downtown. I don't know what house that is. This is a house I know that's right up on, there's another house that I know. Oh, this is another house right down the block from me in Kansas.
I know one lady that manages 5 bed and breakfasts for people who have rental properties here in town. And she said, I've constantly constantly full. That's all I do.
Yeah.
So
there's
if they're a home in a residential,
They're basically operating a business.
and you can't do that.
So we have restrictions right now. So technically none of them are really legal. Now I can't talk very much.
No, it's
Technically,
okay. I don't
none of
wanna
them are
hurt you
legal
any.
right now.
But, yeah.
But even if that law is on our books that's saying we could go in, so if we send them a letter and say, start sending in your property, your taxes, they should run down here and say, what's going on?
But I think there's more to it too. I think if they're running a VRBO or an Airbnb, they're not just doing that too. Is they, like the one up here, they cook dinner, breakfast, lunch. Like, do they have a health person go in there and check in to see if there's a hood in there or
We don't know.
if the food safety's in there? I mean, what happens? That Heart B&B.
Yeah.
I mean, they're posting nonstop about all their food and all their stuff, and they don't even they're not paying sales tax, they're not paying tourism tax, and they're probably don't have a food license to serve that food to a guest.
That we don't know.
That we don't know.
That we don't know.
If they have an Airbnb, I'm imagining somebody went over there to see if their bathrooms are clean and stuff.
Okay, so they have a liquor license once upon a time. I didn't know it. So I know they have their sales tax license, their food service license, that one in particular. That one's, I think, not necessarily a concern. It's the other ones that get true Airbnbs.
Yeah. There's and that's why one thing too is like if you look on VRBO, you can see Holiday Inn has one. I don't know if you guys know, there's hotels that actually are doing VRBOs out of their hotel. Are they paying that room charge? You know, or that?
I imagine they are.
Yeah, but I mean they are, like if you go on there, there's VRBOs in town.
You know, I'm wondering if we as the city can write a letter to Airbnb and VRBO saying we have a tourism tax, and on their site, if they can automatically set it up. I'm trying to walk through the procedure on having them do it. So if the city contacts a site like that and says basically, because I'm sure this can't be the first thought, and says, by the way, you're selling rooms in our area, we're a home charter, this is the rates for our taxes, you don't have them right in your computer, then it would automatically force the businesses to have that, and then send them letters. I'm trying to figure out how to.
Basically what you're telling them is, we know you're operating illegally, but send us your tax.
Yep.
So we've got to
So
get
I think
ordinance fixed.
you have to go with the ordinance of a residential and a business first before you go into a tax.
Is
When
it-
is that planning, when is that zoning thing changing?
So what would be the requirement of them, if they are in a residential area operating one of these facilities? Do they have to come in and get a permit or get registered, or what is planning and zoning saying?
I have to look at the code, I don't remember offhand, but, I know there's, an allowance in there. I don't know if it's a conditional use permit or what it is exactly, I don't remember offhand.
Can we do an emergency ordinance to control that until our zoning, new zoning laws become effective?
Well, another thing is how many you're gonna allow in one area. You know, are you gonna allow a whole city block? Are you gonna allow a section of Trinidad? Are you gonna,
And let me clarify that if a whole block in Trinidad was beautiful and was renting to people coming into town, I'm all for it. This isn't about hotel stays, cause we could be selling a couple hundred more rooms a night in Trinidad in the summertime. This is about doing the most right, so I have no problem if the ordinance says that they can have a whole block worth of them and that the neighbors are all fine with it. We just wanna make sure that they're doing the right steps and that they're paying their tourism tax, so we as a board can have money to spend for all these items that we're like trying to take care of our house. You know, trying to take care of making sure that we can, you know, if we tell Marty there's more that she needs to do, or she needs to hire somebody else part-time, that we have revenues for that, so that we don't just have saying no to all the people who are the feet under us that are running around doing little festivals and big festivals in our town.
The money's there, we just gotta enforce it. I mean, this isn't rocket science, this is pretty easy to
Right.
do, I mean, as far as, I mean, it's really easy to find out who it is, cause it's just, if you go on their website, VRBO, you can actually contact VRBO direct.
Yeah.
And they have.
And they will
good
they will
ratings,
send you
too.
the information.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Probably it's, we can't send them a letter and say send a tax.
Yeah, you can, because
But
they could be.
there are,
Yeah.
essentially.
I can find out, I have 2 houses in Denver that are VRBOs that you could, it's easy
And
to
you know,
set up.
some people might be fine with having one next door, and other people may not. And that's always our considerations too, so,
What is a business license for, like,
cost wise,
yeah, it's like $40 or $50. So what'd be nice is if they get all registered as a business license, and then you could really track them, and then they can run it right.
Do you have any that have registered as a business license
Not one.
in a business area? So you don't have any at all?
I mean, could we take out an ad in the Chronicle and put something, you know, like if you have a VRBO, you have a certain date to register your thing, and then we'll send out a letter. I mean, we'll see if they can do it themselves.
businesses, the ones that are in commercially zoned properties already, we can deal with those. But the other ones.
We have to do the zoning
Yeah,
first.
we have to.
They're basically breaking the law on 3 points, 2 points. Not collecting the sales tax and being in the residential area as a business, so.
Without
a
those-
business license.
The
Without a
one
business
thing,
license.
the one thing has to be addressed first, and that's running a business in the residential area.
In all fairness to somebody that may be listening to this, there are people that have called sheriff saying, hey, we're supposed to be collecting money, what do we do? So there are some B&B owners out there that know that they're supposed to be collecting because they've read the law, so they're gonna use that as an excuse. They're gonna say, I called the city though. She told me.
Oh, and the tourism,
Yeah. That
the
if
ones
you,
in the residential areas.
yeah, somebody has called her and said, hey, listen.
But that's a true statement though.
Yeah.
Cause if we're gonna collect the tax, we're essentially endorsing that they're operating illegally.
Right.
We can't do that, cause again, it affects people. So if
Well-
you have one next door to you and you're not happy about that, we've
Right.
just impacted you in the property values. So, really, it's not just a thing necessarily. I mean, I think it's happening everywhere. I think it's as much as,
Here in
community members want to make of it. We probably half just don't even know where they are.
And
Because
then-
they're not intrusive.
And maybe by making a little bit of an uproar about it, we could have people help us. So if we were to put something out that the tourism board is starting to, question this, the ordinance and this, because then those B&B owners might get their backs up because they do or they do not wanna do it, and they'll start finding the regulation for us. Right?
Well, I think it's up to the city to put out the thing in, are you running a business in a residential area?
Or just to put out the notification that this
Yeah.
is being reviewed by planning
Yeah,
and zoning,
just
that's really
check
the
it out.
starting point of this. I mean, we can send a letter, but until planning and zoning has,
Right.
What is planning and
Determine
zoning
what-
saying on this?
They don't say anything right now, cause it's not in the current code.
It's not, okay.
but I
But
think
the
the
mayor's
idea.
right, we could do an amendment and just deal with this alone, because it's taking forever to get through that new 280-page document.
A semi business would be, that I know in Trinidad sits all around the city, a semi business would be, I'm cutting my hair for people in my home, I have a little sign outside, I'm business regulated. What is the steps for that if I'm going to cut hair in my home and it's in a
That's a
business?
home occupation, and as long as it's, still a residence, that's
Uh-huh.
okay, but if it's a full-time Airbnb or VRBO, that's a full-time business.
So is there any regulation that goes along with that? Because if you told me that and I was renting my room out 30 days a month, I would just rent it 28 days? So that I would
Well,
stay within the law, but then I would collect my tax and send it to the city? So is there any phraseology out there in a similar type business that we can get moving?
Well, I don't think it matters, it matters monetarily if you're renting 28 days versus 10 days or 30 days. But, the fact is that they are collecting monies tax-free. So they may think that they can skirt around the ordinance because they're not renting a full 30 days. But the fact that they are taking money as a lodging stop is the point.
Even if it's one day.
Exactly,
Well,
exactly. And I like Joey's suggestion of, getting hold of our, VRBO.
It's easy.
And, yes, and I believe, I know when we do VRBOs, we always look at the lodging tax they collect. Now, what they do with it when they get it, but I think that would be something to pursue.
Here's another thing to look at
And
is
maybe that should come from tourism.
if you have 10 of these RVs renting out rooms, and you have a motel that has 10 empty rooms, you're hurting that industry. You're hurting our collection of the tax by law.
And still, even as somebody who
But
shows
if
that, I
it would-
appreciate that, it doesn't really bother me. What bothers me is I'm not collecting tax, cause I feel like if I'm not sold out, I'm not doing my job.
But there
But that would be a
is that
requirement,
motel that
like,
could survive on
We
that
no
10
longer
rooms.
allow
Right.
grocery sales at Walmart, you are required to come to Safeway, or vice versa.
Right, right.
And we can't do that.
You can't, that's restricting business.
Yeah, I don't really mind, because I just want as much people as possible that can drop off their money in Trinidad, and I want everybody to be accountable for the taxes that are due so that we can operate our city better.
Right. And I think it's a personal choice. We do both. We do VRBO, and we do hotels. It depends on where we're going. But I also think that we need to play catch up on this and start capturing monies that we're losing. That's part of this discussion, how we can put more money in our
Generate more
account.
money.
Money,
But
so we have the welcome center.
Right, but we've gotta have a strong plan B, because I have a feeling plan A, if, like you're saying, Greg, that they're gonna cut more, that it's gonna be tough. I think they may be looking at decreasing funding for all welcome centers. I wouldn't be surprised.
They may be thinking everybody can be on the line.
Yes, that's exactly what Santa Fe did in New Mexico.
I'm on VRBO right now and just looking at a house in Trinidad. I'm booked on the one right now. I could book Tuesday through Thursday, and it says the total. It says includes taxes and fees. So they're collecting it. They're just
Oh,
not
really?
paying it.
But there should be a
Tourism
breakdown,
tax.
Joey.
Yeah.
There should be a breakdown of what those taxes.
So the correct tax with tourism tax is 11.4%, what does it say?
It don't say. It just says includes taxes and fees. It just gives you a final number.
What's the
$411.
address on
So the address on this one is.
So there's 27 on today.
Well, so if you have
It's on the show, yeah,
27,
just till you book it.
if you have 27 Airbnbs or bed and breakfasts, and they're staying on an average of, say, 3 nights at a total of $500, that's a lot of money throughout the year.
Yeah. That's the money that we're needing for the welcome center. Is
That's
probably
the
in our
money we need for the welcome
VRBOs.
center.
Well, the thing about it is, I think with everything that's going on in Trinidad,
That's
just
gonna
with that,
increase.
They're just
This is gonna increase.
continue to
Oh, yeah, it's gonna increase.
Yeah.
So let me get my little trusty calculator out here and see if I can
And,
figure out.
and being
what
a
we're
store
losing.
owner, a lot of people coming to Trinidad, spending the night, a lot of those people are bed and breakfasts that stay the weekend, and they have nothing but good compliments out of all of them. So, they thoroughly enjoy them. So it's not, I haven't heard one person say that
Yeah.
they've had a,
Yeah, we don't mind them, I don't mind the B&Bs, I just want them to be taxed accordingly and give us that money so we can advertise Trinidad and be able to support our
Or
welcome.
advertise them.
And advertise it, no, we already are advertising them, that's the hard part, we're already are advertising them. We already are advertising Tower 64 Motel, we already are advertising,
Yeah, you're right, we're stopping.
So I've got this in my mind. Okay, so if there's 365 days in the year, I don't know if I'm gonna get this right or not, would you divide it by 12 to give you 30 days? 30 days at, times
The way,
$150 times 27 units, that's $123,000. I know this is probably not the right math, but I'm trying to figure out, if we have 27 VRBOs and they're booking out of 30 days a month, say 24 days.
the calculation I may add would be like, 27 plus 20, plus probably about 40 RV spots, plus 26 spots at the one hotel, plus 45 at the other
Well,
hotel.
let's just do existing.
This is existing, that's about 180, each spending an average of $100 a day, times 365 days, times an 80% capacity, you're gonna find out it's about $80,000. Just because I went down that pathway.
You know, just cutting to the chase of this whole meeting, there's two things that I've recognized that have come out of so far. One is, do we want to try to meet with the governor and Kathy Ritter together next in
Yes,
September?
but
The
knowing-
second thing is, do you guys want the city council to consider an amendment to
Yes.
the ordinance?
I think,
Those are the two things that I'm taking from this meeting.
And
at this point.
here's the other thing,
No,
are
and
we
I
gonna
think-
get funding from the city
For the welcome
as for the welcome center?
right, and knowing
That's-
too, Phil, that, when we go in with a strong presentation in Plan A in the back of our heads, we have to know we can come out of this with something to work. We can't go in groveling.
No. I think that would be something to sit down and sort of get a good plan together. A good decent approach.
Well, even if we take a good look at how much revenue we are losing from these bed and breakfasts,
Yeah,
you know.
and I think a special
think
meeting
that's-
would be good.
And I think that if we do, get a meeting with the governor and Kathy Ritter, I would recommend probably maybe 3 people. Because if you take more than that, everybody, they feel overwhelmed, so
Right.
that's what you gotta be doing.
Right, right.
Visit with
When-
legislators.
When do we apply for the funding for the welcome center is it gonna be 2000?
There isn't an application.
Yeah, well, when do
It's just whether they put it in the state
when is
budget.
that determination made? Is it made in May?
During the entire spring of the year.
So it starts in May, or?
It starts in January.
The legislative days start usually first part of January and go through May, depending what they.
And that funding will begin in the fiscal year of July, so you are budgeted right now through the calendar year,
Is that much
right, the 2019 calendar, 2020 calendar year, so you will have a 6-month period of funding that you will need to assume that's, if you're getting state funded, then you need to carry through to the state funding and then adjust it accordingly for the balance of the 6-month balance for 2020. If you don't get funded, then you need to start working on your budget for 2020 for the city's, the city budget. Which they are working on now.
For our request.
For a request of funds. Is that what you're saying?
For your tourism budget.
Well, we need a budget for the tourism.
And I did just run the numbers of the hotels and the RV spots to be at only an 80% occupancy rate. The town right now is running a 93% occupancy rate, and that equals $120,888 this year so far.
Of lost revenue.
Of lost revenue due to the Airbnbs and the 2 hotels that are not collecting any tourism tax and city tax. And since the city tax is 4% and the tourism tax is 3%, that means the city's also losing out on probably $135,000 already. Because they're only collecting county tax.
So we would like that emergency money for the city.
The other thing is, who is going to contact the governor's office, and should we go through Debbie and to try to set up a meeting with the governor and Kathy Ritter together, and who's going to make that contact? Do you wanna do it? Do you want the city to do it?
I would start with Kathy. I wouldn't start with the governor's office.
Okay.
I would start with Kathy, and I may volunteer that if you know Sal Pace, I would call Sal Pace, since he's very good friends with the governor, and see if, he can help with that chore a little bit.
I'll see him if he's there at the meeting, I'll
Yeah.
see him Friday, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Do the mayor and the city manager see a value in tourism and the new direction we're trying to go in promoting Trinidad? Can we count on their support for funding? I'm trying to close on the
Funding
deal.
of,
Pardon me?
I mean, in addition to the lodging tax,
No, just do you support helping with the funding, or do you see the value, I guess is my question, of the visitor center and tourism as they work together?
It's a good question. I think what I'm hearing is, you're saying is that, do you believe
Do you
that the
value us?
$50,000 that you throw in and we throw in the additional money has been of value to the city? And are you in for continuing our lovely relationship and upping that number if we don't get funding through Airbnb and the other
How much
hotels?
is that funding we get?
$50,000
we did
right
a
now.
2-year thing with the
Or- Or do we look at the Welcome Center like the state does? You know, do we continue with the Welcome Center? If the state doesn't see any value in it, do we continue with the Welcome Center?
Well, I think that there's value in this. You know, think
I also
the
do,
thing is, we
but
gotta.
I think it goes on the city, it goes on the tourism, and it should go on the state because we are advertising for the state. We are advertising for the city and the tourism, so I think all of these three working together.
I do see value in it. I think the big thing is we'll have to get that additional support from the Bouncer Council too.
Right.
But if the state doesn't see it, and if the city doesn't see any sense in giving us the 50,000 or more money that we need, then maybe we all ought to look at it in the way the state does. Is it working?
I mean, in that regards, what Nancy said, I really think is really great. What they're doing at the Chronicle is having screens built into windows, and then maybe us having someone who does the outreach and tourism that we need and not to worry about it. Is that one of the questions?
Do we have to look at tourism in another way?
Are other communities looking at tourism in different ways?
Right.
I think we all
Yeah.
have to.
Well, I think what I learned, and I'm pretty sure Tom and Camilla, you learned it too, and I'm sure you learned it at last tourism governor's conference, was that so many cities were now combining chambers, economic development, and tourism into the same building, and maybe getting a few, still 2 or 3 employees, but they would wear a lot more hats to get more bang, depending on this is a driven economic development week or a driven festival week. And we saw that.
And I think by all of those entities working together, you probably had a better working than the chamber doing a certain thing and that's all they do. And then this organization doing another thing, that's all they do. But if you have all of these organizations combining their thoughts and their ideas to create one thing for the city of Trinidad, I think that's a better thing, because then you have everybody working together.
in all likelihood, will house the economic development person that's based to create as soon as that's up and running.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're good, that person day to day will be managing the rentals, not the housing, but
Right.
the community space.
You mentioned about Sal Pace, if I see him on Friday, do you want me to put a bug in his ear, and if so, what kind of bug do you want me to put in there?
Just that.
Well, we want to
we're
continue a working relationship with the state.
State.
We want to have the Welcome Center. I'm sure if the state of Colorado found that we were closing this Welcome Center because not all the parties agreed on working together, I'm sure we have so much information for all the cities in the state. And I'm sure they're gonna feel a loss.
And we need the heat to be put on at the governor level, because you know what, we worked really hard to be who we are.
And I'm sure we'll see him Friday simply because we're having our Southwest Chief meeting on Friday in Pueblo, so I'm sure he will.
Yeah, we've worked really hard. I mean, look at what you guys have done for the Fisher's Peak acquisition. Look at where Trinidad was 20 years ago. Look at how internationally known is the Blues Fest. Look at what Arcade, look at all these places that have done stuff. We are their doorway. They should care about us.
So there's a question for you, Si. I know we're on the, we wanna be on the receiving end, so we're trying to play by all the rules and, you know, we'll abide by all your requirements as a Colorado Welcome Center. But if we were to go away and not be a Colorado Welcome Center, how does that affect the state? So maybe we should be on the other end saying, well, if we close our doors, how does that affect you as a state? And maybe they would see more of a benefit in just being there. I mean, I don't wanna threaten them, but
I
I
don't
mean,
wanna
on
threaten
the
them
other
either, but I
hand.
Well,
would
we're
like to
picking
ask
up-
them how important is this
How
welcome
are
center
we,
to you
how important
people?
are we to as a welcome center?
That's just like I
I don't wanna
just said.
threaten them.
We have to look at it in the sense, the way the state is. Do we wanna fund this welcome center? Does the city wanna fund the welcome center for the state? You know, we wanna be a working partner.
Or
Well,
have
that's-
maybe three of us working together.
So those 25,000 people a year that we are processing as a Colorado Welcome Center and we're processing them through our doors and we're promoting the state, you know, would,
Has
How much of a
McDonald
benefit
shut
is
down
that?
not hurt you?
I think I agree a lot of what you're saying, but I don't still think if I'm talking about numbers, if somebody's got 100,000 and somebody's got 25, we're still not, we have to sell it to them why it's better.
And we are.
You know, we have to
We
give them
are.
more than just our numbers. We have to sell it why it's better to be here.
well, I wouldn't base that just on numbers.
Yeah.
I would say
We
the
wanna,
benefit. What
we
kind
wanna
of
take one of the
benefit are we?
billboards that we have on I-25, we just wanna put the welcome center on it, to stop it.
There's
You know, fix it.
enough signs though, Tommy.
But
that
I think
big
that one,
signs.
I think that one billboard will help that welcome center. If it says exit 13 and the welcome center's there, that's the only thing we have to go for right
But
now.
right by that billboard, there is a state highway sign that says Colorado Welcome Center exit 13.
A lot of, they may not see that one, but they may see one with color.
I think signage at this point is not our problem.
Yeah, cause there's 5 signs that you go in, you hit that place and boom, 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 and they all say Colorado Welcome Center on it, with arrows. You know,
I look at this differently. We don't have a society that reads much anymore. They fly down the highway, they may look but they're not digesting it. They're Googling it. You could put 50 signs on the road, and I am not convinced that they're gonna come in because of a sign. They're gonna come in because they have seen something on their phone.
Well, they haven't gotten rid of those signs, so they are working. If
I
our-
don't think they are. I really don't.
Marty, is our welcome center on our, website for Trinidad?
Is the welcome center on?
Yeah, do we have something on our website that states that we have a welcome center?
I don't know.
that's a good
That's a
question.
good question.
So if they're reading that, it should be on there.
I mean, if they're reading, yeah, that should be one of the things. I mean, and I think that, remember I sent you an email too, I think, you know, we created that new trolley, that should be one of the first points on our website too. We
It
do
is
have
on
this
the
trolley
website.
run.
It is, it's a
It's on the
beautiful picture.
homepage.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Well, if the state has also opened an office or a division that is all about outdoor rec, biking, hiking, camping, et cetera, we, as one of the best mountain biking areas in Colorado, with county road access 5 minutes away from the city, I would think we would be a big part of that outdoor rec division. And that is a part, and I've only heard that the governor is a big biker.
Cool.
And I also think that you have to play on the assets that we have, like Fisher Peak, like Space to Create, that the last governor helped get started. I just don't understand, what happened. I don't know what happened with Gabe and Jonathan, but just having dealt with Jonathan's bills and stuff that happened to this board, I can see why they might be resistant, but we have to let them know that we're not the same group anymore.
Something that you're gonna have to do is, you know, if by chance that we can pull this meeting together in September, it would be a good idea to have a simple fact sheet with some bullet points, just bullet points, that you can give to them and say the reasons why we feel it's necessary to have the funding. Because that's what they usually look at. If you give them a big long story, they forget, but if you give them a few simple bullet points as to the reasons why, I know they pay more attention to it.
The welcome center's right on the front page.
So so in answer to your question, Joey, on the bottom, as a footer on every page, it says visitor center.
Nice, good addition on that. With, the outdoor rec, how close are we for getting that trail done from here to the dam?
You need to acquire land first.
Oh, okay, I thought they were almost, someone was saying that they're almost done, so I was like, that'd be cool to team up with the city and do a big, you know,
We have two options on that. One
party
is,
to go.
and like Greg was talking about, is acquiring the property. The other thing we talked about a couple of years ago was actually jumping onto the county road temporarily and skirting that until we can get it. Because we don't know if we'll run into any obstacles with acquiring that property or not.
Oh. So
The second option is the county road.
The county road being 20.8?
Yeah, problem with the county road is that's not family friendly.
No, it's not. I've driven on that road
Yeah.
in a package car, and it's,
And when you
It's
come
not
back
good.
from the other side,
It's
the
but there's so
road's
many-
kinda wide and suddenly there's a really narrow cattle crossing and you
cattle
damn near
crossing,
can't
you
get back
have
to it.
you have that river when that Raton Creek floods, the road is gone. So there's a lot of,
So can we recap? So one of the first thing to recap is that the city's gonna address the Airbnbs. I'm not quite sure how we're gonna do that. If we're gonna get somebody designated to, research, Airbnbs or places like Manitou Springs, which is usually a place I like to go research because it's in Colorado and touristy. How they handling it, I'm sure they have an issue up there, right? Cause Manitou is so small, they don't have very much funding at all because they're only they're a lot smaller than people think. It's like 10 blocks or something. Can we have anybody that can be designated to do that? Do you guys want us to do that? I did a little of it that one day I was writing you guys a letter. I can find out if there's some more and get that to you. Is that one of the ways we're gonna handle it? Another thing is, how are we handling this tax? Are we really gonna wait till we're regulated before we send out letters to the people?
And I think that was going to be come in the form of, this amendment to the ordinance.
Okay.
And that would be the city side of it.
I'm just not really quite sure if it's an amendment to the ordinance. I think the way
Well, I
the
think
business
it's
is.
They're there
It's
and
the
we're not
zoning.
stopping.
business in a residential, I
It's
think
the zoning issue.
It's
It's a
that's-
zoning
that's-
issue.
We
that's-
can't send a letter
do
out if we
anything
don't
yet.
have a zone.
And
Yes,
I think that's the number one thing is the business in a residential area, that has to be addressed first.
Well, that's planning and zoning's job.
But the
Well, that's
fact of the
issue
matter
right
is
there.
they're there, we're allowing them to be there. If we were enforcing the zoning code, we'd be shutting every one of them down.
Yeah.
So that would be up to
That's an issue too.
That would be up to the city to take care of that, so we'll, that would be our.
So you mentioned that maybe you could speed that zoning up a little
With
bit?
an amendment.
With an amendment?
to the ordinance.
And just kinda, let's get that in there?
Amendment to which ordinance?
Zoning code.
Oh, zoning, I'm
Zoning.
saying a tourism.
No, zoning.
And could that maybe resemble something like the hairdressers that are doing this? Cause it seems like it's sort of the same business.
I think what Greg will probably do is he'll probably take it to the directors and.
Well, it's not that hard to do this. We already have the language, we just have to pull it out of the trash.
Somebody just has to do it.
Enforced.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are gonna do that so that we can go ahead and, hopefully within a month or so, be able to send out, or 6 weeks or so, send out letters to these places?
See what that time frame is.
Or
See what that
ask
timeframe is?
them if we,
Can I ask a question? Where's the city stand on the Welcome Center?
I think at this point in time in our history, it's necessary.
It's
Whether that'll change sometime in the next 10 years, I don't know, but, you also gotta consider that 25 years ago, libraries had a 1-year lifespan and they were all going to die the next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And they totally remained themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
And welcome centers can do the same thing. Like it or not, we have not become a paperless society. Everybody likes to touch paper
Yeah.
still.
I love to read.
Me too.
And when you can give them pretty pictures and cards and brochures, they take them. So, you gotta recognize that people look stuff up on the web, but they still want the paper.
Well, one of the things I see out of this meeting is the funding for the Welcome Center. It can come from a number of places. Is if we go after the bed and breakfast to create more revenue, try to annex the motels that are out of the city limits into the city. That's revenue created to run the Welcome Center, because that's what that money's designated for. And I feel that we should have a meeting with the governor. I think that we should never give up trying to get money from the state to run our Welcome Center, because it's a big, we're the southern door into Colorado, and I think it's just as valuable to the city of Trinidad as it is to the state. And I think we should always try to be a partner with the state in trying to get revenue from them to run the Welcome Center. And I also think the city should be a big part of this, because it's a place to get information about all the things that are going on in Trinidad. So it's just a thing that we should all be able to work together on to keep the Welcome Center going on strong. And I think Marty has done an excellent job with the Welcome Center. I've gone down there. She's changed so many things. The state came in there and put a huge map of all the different parts of the state of Colorado, and I just think it's an excellent asset. You have a huge volunteer group of elderly citizens that gives them something to do in this community.
Well, and
Instead of being locked up in their homes in the evenings or during the day, instead of being shut-ins, they're out in the community. And I think all these things that we need to look at are an asset to this city. We're helping the city grow. And I think, just like you said, mentioned about libraries, same thing with that Welcome Center.
well, the difference though is the Welcome Center and the Tourism Board have a dedicated revenue source. I know a lot of cities that say we should not let them keep all the lodging tax because we want some of it for the city. So,
That's the way the ordinance is written out in those cities, and that's the way it should be done, but is it?
But I mean, it's a lot of money. It's not like you have a $10,000 budget you're trying to live off of. It's a substantial amount of money.
We've reined in a lot of money that was spent foolishly also.
Mhm.
And we're looking at different areas of spending this money. We're not going into magazines that, and what I have seen in the magazines that have been advertised in the past of Twin Peaks, I mean, that's not even in Trinidad. Of a dog on a boat. You know, I'm about the golf course. I'm about Monument Lake. I'm about our aquatic center. I'm about this park that's down here. I'm about the things that belong to Trinidad. That's what I'm about. Going after with the tourism dollar. That's what the way I feel. The events that we have, Artocade is bringing people from all over the country into this town. I went out to that museum with my grandkids, and those people are so excited, and it's right off of I-25, and it's just so much happening right there in that one little place right there.
Actually, Artocade is not the event, but the art car museum and the art cars themselves. They're an unbelievable marketing opportunity for
That's
the
it.
town. When they take those things someplace, they're bringing people here.
And then another thing
You should
too
almost
is-
be paying them a stipend just to advertise them.
Another thing too is
Well, we
the
did-
college
we did
got
just-
on board with them because that's a college building. So the college partnered with them.
Mhm.
It's just like the Blues Fest. I was in Denver International Airport. There's a guy wearing a blues shirt, and he says they come every year, and people from all over this country. I've served people from Louisiana that just came up here to see bands. So it's we have things to build on, and that's what we need to do. And that's where I wanna see the tourism money go to, things that are gonna promote this community.
And we did, it's just as a side note, Greg, we just did fund the, Cartopia, $625 a month all year long to help with.
So, Si, were there other action items that you needed to touch on before we wrap up?
I'd like a recap of what we have accomplished today, so annexation for the areas of hotels that are right on, in and out of city services. What kind of action can be done on those? Or to see the city move forward and take some sort of action on that. And then I guess we're all working together. I'll get you guys that letter that I started, but we're moving along. What is our time period for trying to get the Airbnbs, bed and breakfasts all on the same page? Is there a time period that we're gonna shoot for, like before the end of the year we're gonna have it done? Are there any stop points? Yeah, okay. And then what happens to the Welcome Center this year in funding? We'll do our budget when we have our budget meeting for ourselves, but we'll come forward to the city council and, we'll need additional funds this year, with the agreement to move forward with the Welcome Center. And I think we all really wanna make that Welcome Center wow. I don't think that there's a question about that. It's not like that it's a heavy load for us. It is more, but I think we've all taken on the chore that it is about tourism, the Welcome Center. We just wanna be able to do things right. When it's strapped for cash, it's hard to do that.
Can I ask a question, Marty? Has that hurt you to McDonald's down? For the Welcome Center? The McDonald's?
No,
Helped it, no?
No? Oh, yeah, they all come in and say, where's McDonald's?
Hot dogs and hamburgers.
It's been a big boom for
And shall we look into-
KFC and Taco Bell, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
There is a constant line, constantly. But no, in fact, it might have been a good thing for us because we've sent those people that would have stopped at McDonald's into our local restaurants. We just redirect them. So they don't find McDonald's, where do we go to eat? What are we gonna do now? Well, you go to Tease Me Treat Me, or you go to Moose's, or you go to wherever, but you don't go to McDonald's. So it might have been a good thing for us.
We definitely are seeing more tourists walking from end to end. And it's not just been this summer. It's been all year. It's a different kind of tourist than
The
we've had.
demographic is different.
Yes, the demographic is different. It's, I would say more middle to upper middle income versus last year was upper income. And, still going to Creed and places like that. It's mostly, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas is what we see. But they're from everywhere.
This summer what
But
I've
you also
seen
have to
different-
take into consideration these day trippers that are coming just for the
So
day
that was
out of
exactly what I was gonna
Colorado
say. The one
Springs,
thing that
just
I've
for the day
seen
out of
this year
Amarillo.
that I didn't see so much last year is people are coming here for a
The day
weekend
trippers.
Right.
or a week, 3 or 4 days during the week,
Right.
and they're here in Trinidad. They're here for a reason. They wanna we came up here because we wanna spend the week here. We
Right,
wanna spend
right.
the weekend here.
Right.
We're doing, where are you headed? Well, we're here.
We're
I
here.
hear that more and more and more
Yes,
often,
yeah.
so.
And it's just,
We're attracting them somehow.
we just came we wanted to take a drive and we like coming to Trinidad just for the day, for the drive, and they walk around and eat and go back home.
Amarillo, a lot of people from
Yeah, a
Amarillo,
lot of
we came up
them,
here for 3 or 4 days, we're just here for a couple of days, we're here for the weekend. A lot of people from Amarillo.
It's
That's a day
interesting.
trip.
I'll share this with you. We started noticing, the weather and traveling in the southeast of us and into Arizona. We watch the weather every morning and it's so predictable. If they have high humidity and it's in the 90s with 100% humidity, we are gonna be busy. And they drive and drive and drive just to get out of the heat. That was really amazing to me. I never thought of that, but it is so true. They'll come here for the weather.
And a note, they so do. And as another note, just for you to know, Greg, so the tourism board approved funding for Fridays and Saturdays nights from the hotels to bring people downtown, and we just started it this week, but we're gonna hit it
Trial
harder
run?
a trial
Yeah.
run, we're gonna hit it a little bit harder and try to get the other hotels excited about bringing people downtown back and forth, to try to get
Move them,
people
so
to
they
spend
don't have
money
to drive,
downtown.
they can stay downtown a little longer, be cautious.
Well, the other benefit is it creates a connection to exit 11.
Right.
Yes.
That's the whole object.
That was the objective.
It's way easy to stop there and then get in the car next morning.
Well, and they can get on the trolley, go to Brick's Wonderful House, Smokehouse. They can hit every bar, restaurant in town just by getting off and on the trolley.
We tried to have the stops, so they were all along the
Yeah.
places of all the restaurants in town.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Okay.
Is that it? Do we have a motion to adjourn then?
Anybody else have anything else they wanna ask for while together? No? Okay,
I motion to adjourn this meeting.
second. All in favor, aye.
Bye.
Aye, aye, aye. Thanks, guys.